Hello and welcome back to the A Traveling Knitter podcast channel. My name is Steph and today's video is going to be discussing the different tracking methods that I have and have had with my reading life. I love tracking things. I feel like if I had a dream job that wasn't necessarily like crafting related, it would be to take inventory. I love counting. I love just, got one thing, marking it down, taking pictures of things to document that we have it or what have you. It's weird, I know. So I have tried quite a few different tracking methods for my reading, and this video is going to go through those. So first and foremost, the main tracking method that I use and the tracking method that I started and still stick with is probably no surprise. It's GoodReads. And I have my iPad here and I'm just gonna pull it up just in case you don't know about GoodReads, but I feel like if you are a reader, you know. Okay, so this is my new iPad and apparently I haven't downloaded GoodReads, the app on it, but I know that I have it on the website. So this is my GoodReads channel. I very much update my currently reading, and lately, within probably the last 2 or 3 years, I actually track what page I'm on. Now I'm not consistent in like every day I track, but every now and then I do mark how many pages I've read. I like to start the book and finish it so I have like a date range if I wanted to document how long it took me to read a book. I have my reading challenge right here, which I've already talked about. There are 100 books in the reading challenge for me, and this is where I track my reading challenge. It is through GoodReads. And then I have multiple bookshelves where I track what I want to read, what I've read, and this last couple months I was very proud in that I ran over the 1,000 mark for my read. And with GoodReads, so not only do you have the challenge, but you also have like a year in review recap, and you can sort your books based on a range. So you can go into your My Books and it will list everything in a specific bookshelf that you have. So on the left-hand side, you can select your bookshelves, and then you can actually decide what you want to show up on the screen. So for me, I have the picture, the title, the author, how many pages, the average rating, my rating, and date started, added. I also have a format in here, which I was trying to document my format, but it pulls in the ISBN format. And owned, so you have there is an option to mark owned. I find it a little bit fiddly, and so I created my own shelf that tracks what I've owned, and that is actually fully up to date. There is a little button that you can select that says stats, which is very cool. It's a very simple stat, but shows you how many books you've read in each of the years. You can even look at it from pages. You can check publication year. So are you more likely to read a new book versus an old book? I'm definitely going to be reading a new book. I do read older classical books, just not very often. Ultimately, GoodReads is what I use to track, have I read this book? Do I want to read this book? How long did it take me to read this book? How many pages are there? Stats like that. I am a big fan of GoodReads. I don't see myself stopping using GoodReads, but there are other methods that I have played with that give you some more stats, let's say. In 2020, I've tried to have a bullet journal that was a reading bullet journal. So here is my bullet journal. This is an Archer and Olive journal. I love this thing, and I think really it was just a matter of timing, because I started this in 2020, which we all know is basically the year we're still living in. So I had made up my own little ranking for stars, and then I had a GoodReads goal and my trying to achieve it. And then at the beginning, I put in some challenges. So I had the Modern Mrs. Darcy challenge, reading challenges. And then I also had the Book Riot Read Harder challenge. And then I jumped into January. So my January spread, I was tracking the days that I read and then the releases that I was interested in. And my goal was to have a quote from a book that I read that month, which I hadn't read any books yet. And I put a quote of a book I wanted to read, and then I didn't actually read the book. So man, it didn't quite work out that way, but it's fine. And then I did a page per book. And I liked this, but I found that, like, I liked the structure, but then I was feeling beholden to the structure. So, and I wanted to put more like quotes from the book, but I didn't really know where to put it. I liked having the theme with the colors. I liked tracking how many pages there were. I liked tracking the method that I read it, so a book versus an ebook. So you can see I did pretty well. And then I didn't write a review for this, and I did my stats. Now, January 2020, I was commuting back and forth, so, you know, it put a pause there. And then again, I was like, okay, February, I've got my themes. I tracked when I read. I did a little bit different with the stats, and here is where I pretty much stopped. Like, I prepped the pages, I just didn't do it. I just didn't write. And then March hit and it was over. COVID started and I didn't have the willpower to keep up. I tried again in April, clearly nothing happened. And then September, and then I had, you know, some challenges that I wanted to do. I put them in here and I just couldn't succeed. So with 2020, it was my worst reading year that I'd ever had, and it just did not lend well to a bullet journal. So I tried again in 2021. I went a little bit more abstract with scrapbooking, and I used to love scrapbooking, loved it. So this definitely felt more me, more fun to do. And I will say I came back to this page a lot because this was my 2021 books goal, to read all of these books. And again, I thought, okay, so the problem was writing down the recap of the books in here. So I liked having the releases I was interested in. I like having kind of like a mild TBR, so I put that there. And then I shortened up my recaps. I still had some of the stats, like where did I get it from, library owned copy. And that ended up being a lot easier, more manageable. February, you know, kind of the same thing. And then I didn't continue. So I think what would work for me with this, again, is to have a bit more abstractness, but to schedule in filling it out. I don't know. I liked the idea of the bullet journal, but in the end, it just didn't work for me. And really, maybe we can blame COVID. I wouldn't be opposed to returning to a bullet journal, but probably in a bit more of an abstract manner. Then in 2021, I downloaded an Excel spreadsheet that did a lot of stats for me from Book Riot. This is probably my favorite thing that I have done in 2021, and I am going to continue it in 2022. And I'll post pictures or something on here. But what was so cool about this was with an Excel, you know, you can make graphs, you can track things, you can do simple formulas on top to see like, okay, of the books that I read and I tracked male author versus female author, what does that breakdown look like? 50-50, 80-20, that sort of thing. So it was really, really cool. And if you watched my 2021 book stats, that's where a lot of those stats came from, is from that Book Riot spreadsheet. I don't think Book Riot published the spreadsheet again in 2022. I looked for it, couldn't find it. So if you're interested, I am gonna leave a link below somehow, because I don't know if that'll link to mine or if I save a new version, I'll see, but I'll link it below if you're interested in tracking. I kept up with it for the first couple months, and then at the end of the year, I just took like an hour or 2 hours while listening to a podcast, and I just manually typed everything. And to me, that's not tedious. It's kind of relaxing to just, again, document stuff down. And it was just really nice. I liked having the graphics on the second page. I liked having that information, and you know, you can add to it yourself. If you understand the mechanics of Excel, you can come up with your own graphics. You can, you know, track your own things to it. And then for 2022, something new that I decided to do is I don't even know how I found this, but I found a digital reading journal, and it is by Book Bells. And so this is the cover of it. And I have mine imported into Google Drive. And it's very much like, okay, I'm like trying to show this to you without the glares. It's very much like a reading journal or a bullet journal, except in digital form. So you can't really change or do much to this. You have some, all of the pages are preset, but what I like, or what I use, is the first page, which is, I think you can have 100 books in here, or maybe it's 120, I can't remember. And I copy the covers from GoodReads into here, you know, paste them, insert them, and I do my star ratings and, you know, write anything that I need to, just like in a journal. I'm kind of getting to the point of, I don't know if I don't really need to write the title, since most of them, the title is on the cover. And then what's really cool is each of these, what's behind the picture is a link. So I'm covering the link, but I can still tap on it, and it will take me to the page where I wrote my review. So I put in title, I've got the author, the genre, date published, pages, start and end date, synopsis, and then my rating or my opinion on it. And then this little box, I don't really know what you're supposed to, it says notes. I've been using it to track the source of the book and then any awards that it has received. And I really like that. It's, you know, it's very similar to what I was doing with the bullet journal, except this is on Google. Technically, I could do this from my computer. I could do it from my phone. And, you know, it's just tracking all the books that I've read, and I quite like it. There is, you could do a watch list of books that you are interested in and would like to get. I have strayed away from this because I've actually just started to add them into my phone calendar as a reminder that they're coming out. What I would prefer to change is the challenges. They've got book challenges, And then they do have an A to Z challenge. I've never bothered with that. I would appreciate it if they had more of like a blank challenge, but it was free and I'm enjoying it. I'm quite enjoying this. I have tried a few other apps that I didn't quite enjoy. The name is escaping me of this specific app, but I will put a picture on the screen. I tried using this with the goal of tracking how long it took me to actually read a book. And I liked that idea until I realized that the free version of the app only let me have 10 books. And so after the 10, I had to pay for it. And if you can tell, all these methods, other than physically buying this, are free. So I wasn't very keen on that idea. But if you're someone that's interested in tracking inside of an app how long it takes you to read something, you might want to check out that app. Honestly, if you're interested, just use your phone timer. If you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something, track it on your phone and then just write it down somewhere. Especially if you're into the graphics, then Excel is your best friend. I have a Mac, so I actually use the Google Excels, which is Sheets, and it works just fine. So hopefully that was interesting or helpful if you're looking to document or track the books that you're reading. And from a knitting standpoint, you could, especially like the Excel spreadsheet, you could definitely translate that into knitting, especially if you're wanting to track how long it takes you to knit a sock, knit a hat, how many hats you're actually knitting. Me personally, I don't quite like the Ravelry goal system because it's like you just make a goal, and I don't put a Ravelry project for everything that I make. I have done a ton of donation hats. I will knit socks for friends, and if they're just straight stockinette socks, I typically don't add them into Ravelry. Because there's no pattern attached to it. There's no like helpful hints that I'm going to be giving. So I find that, I will write that I've knit 5 things, but I've knit 10 or 12. So I don't quite like that. Also, there's really no distinction that you can make between I want to knit 10 hats this year and I want to knit 3 pairs of socks. You can't really do that inside of Ravelry. So I like set a goal, but I don't really use that feature. I hope this video was helpful and makes you excited to start tracking things or try out a new tracking method, or even start tracking, whether it be reading or knitting or anything else that you can think of. If you did find this helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video next week, which should be a podcast. Bye.